What if I told you that the most dangerous risk to your leadership right now isn't market volatility, staffing shortages, or AI disruption, but a form of debt that never appears on a balance sheet, yet silently erodes your judgment, your patience, and your strategic clarity? It's called recovery debt. And if you're carrying it, and most executives are, it's already costing you decision quality, leadership presence, and long-term longevity. Welcome to Longevity Unlocked, the podcast where we decode the science, strategy, and systems behind sustainable executive performance. I'm Nurse Sherrie, your executive longevity and high-performance strategist, and today we're in week 2 of our executive longevity series focused on a topic that leaders rarely talk about, but everyone feels: recovery debt and decision quality. This episode is not about sleep tips or self-care cliches. This is about how incomplete recovery quietly reshapes your brain, narrows your judgment, increases risk-taking, and degrades the quality of the decisions you're paid to make. We'll move through 3 cycles today. Each cycle will include 1 science-backed study, 1 real-world executive case, and 1 personal leadership moment. And by the end, you'll understand why recovery is not time off. It's a strategic leadership discipline. Let's begin. Cycle 1, the neuroscience of recovery debt. A landmark study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences examined the effects of chronic sleep restriction on cognitive performance. Participants who slept 6 hours or less per night for 2 weeks showed the same cognitive impairment as individuals who had gone 48 hours without sleep. Here's the critical insight. Most participants believed they were functioning fine, even as objective testing showed significant declines in their executive functioning, work memory, emotional regulation, and risk assessment. Recovery debt doesn't announce itself, it disguises itself as pushing through. Here's an executive case study. A Fortune 500 COO prided himself on resilience. Early mornings, late nights, back-to-back travel. He wasn't exhausted. He was disciplined until his team noticed a pattern. He became more reactive in meetings. He defaulted to short-term fixes. He dismissed dissent faster than usual. One decision, an aggressive acquisition timeline, looked bold on paper. But 6 months later, integration failed, not due to strategy, due to underestimating complexity, overconfidence, and compressed risk assessment. This is classic recovery debt signatures. Here's my personal story. Early in my career as a travel nurse, I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor. I told myself lives depend on me. I'll rest later. But I began noticing subtle shifts. I was less patient with my colleagues. I was making faster judgments, asking fewer questions, and a creeping sense of emotional detachment was inevitable. I wasn't burned out. I was under-recovered. And the scariest part, I didn't feel impaired. I felt normal. That's the deception of recovery debt. Cycle 2, recovery debt and risky decision-making. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that sleep deprivation and chronic stress reduce activity in the prefrontal cortex, that's the front of the brain, the area that's responsible for strategic thinking, impulse control, and long-term planning. At the same time, the amygdala, the brain's threat and emotion center, becomes hyper-reactive. Translation for leaders: you become more reactive, emotionally driven, and short-term focused. You also become less curious, less strategic, and less nuanced. Here's another executive case study. A public sector executive overseeing crisis response was praised for stamina. Weeks of 14-hour days, no real downtime. During a high-pressure briefing, he dismissed a junior advisor's concern about secondary consequences. That overlooked issue became the headline 2 weeks later. The failure was not intelligence. It was decision compression, a hallmark of recovery debt. When recovery is absent, leaders stop exploring options and start defending positions. There was a season in my life where I believed rest had to be earned. I remember preparing for a high-stakes presentation after weeks of poor sleep. I knew the material, but I couldn't access my best thinking. I rushed, I overtalked, I missed the room. That experience taught me something no textbook ever did. Recovery doesn't make you slower, it makes you sharper. Cycle 3, recovery as a strategic asset. A study from the University of California found that even one full night of quality sleep can restore neural efficiency and improve insight based upon problem solving by up to 40%. Recovery isn't passive, it's active cognitive maintenance. Executives who prioritize recovery show higher decision confidence, better emotional regulation, improved ethical judgment. Here's another executive case study. A CEO reframed recovery as executive infrastructure. He redesigned his calendar, no early morning decision meetings, strategic work scheduled after recovery windows, travel days followed by low cognitive load blocks. The result? Fewer reversals, more aligned leadership teams, and noticeably better long-range decisions. Recovery became a competitive advantage. Here's my personal story. Today, I protect recovery the same way I protect integrity because I know this truth. Every decision I make while under-recovered borrows against my future capacity. Longevity isn't about living longer. It's about leading better for longer. Here are some key takeaways. Recovery debt accumulates silently, degrades decision quality, increases risk-taking, and narrows strategic vision. Recovery sharpens judgment, stabilizes leadership presence, and extends executive longevity. This is not about comfort. This is about capacity. If today's episode resonated, here's your next step. Download my executive capacity audit to identify where recovery debt may be silently eroding your performance. If you're responsible for teams, agencies, or organizations and want to build sustainable, high-performing leadership systems, book a corporate wellness strategy call with me. And make sure you're connected with me across all my platforms. Follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Ask Nurse Sherrie. Follow me on X at Ask Sherrie RN. If this episode added value, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with another leader who needs to hear this. All links are in the show notes. This is Longevity Unlocked. Because your decisions shape lives and your recovery protects your legacy. Until next time.